you see life, you're so present in the
Mm-hmm.
moment that and of course there's places where you're present and there's times where we have to plan ahead. Like we can't always be just
Mm,
now. Like as moms, business owners, we need to look ahead. But you're just present in it. Like everything that's happening, you
you
see it
got
for what it
this.
is. You got this. And the emotions that come
Yeah.
in and because you can control your reactions when you're in your moment, like when you're authentically you, someone will say something, you'll pause, you'll think, and then you'll give a response that's authentically you.
Hello, welcome to the Chill Mom Boss Show. I'm your host, Michelle Hon. In this episode, I speak to Beth Miller. She supports women with their marriage struggles by transforming themselves inside out. And her secret weapon is hypno journeying. Have you heard of hypno journeying? It is a deep meditation that has been referred to as meditation on steroids. And so, as we know, entrepreneurship is all about self development, and self development starts from the inside out. And if you sometimes feel like perhaps your husband or your partners, family members, or those who are close to you does not understand the journey that you're in, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. All right. Hi, Beth. Welcome to the Chill Mom Boss Show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So let's get into it. I'll let you introduce yourself to our audience.
Perfect. My name is Beth Miller, and I am the founder of Soulify Wellness. So, the best way to describe what Soulify Wellness is to imagine your life. So, imagine your life where you can go through the day and you're no longer feeling that frustration from like your partner or your kids. You no longer have these feelings of being unappreciated. You're not feeling angry. You no longer feel the urge to maybe blame those people in your life, criticize them, or be right all the time. So, what happens is I help the women that I work with get to a place, this beautiful place where they're just so much happier and they can navigate the days kind of ups and downs from such a peaceful place.
That sounds wonderful. I'm curious, how did you get into this?
Oh, it's kind of a long story and it's a little shocking, so I will warn you. Um,
Okay.
I will warn you because I had a brain bleed. So usually when I say the word brain bleed, people are like, "What happened?" So I was a
Yeah.
healthy 39-year-old mom with 3 kids, super
Mm-hmm.
active. I run half marathons, work out lots, and all of a sudden I started to get some weird feelings in my right side, my right leg, and I was slowly losing my ability to run. I'd take a step and I couldn't just get my leg
So
to
you were
go.
in the middle of a mid run and you felt that.
No, I was kind of on the elliptical actually. I was kind of
Oh,
training,
okay.
so doing some
Oh,
cross training.
right. All
And
right.
so what
Okay. Sorry
happened, yeah, it's
for
okay.
the
So what
interruption, but
happened
yeah.
was I was, let me backtrack for a second. So yeah, I was starting to lose my ability to
Yeah.
walk. And it kind of went over about 5 days. And I thought, oh, maybe I just need to go to physio. Maybe I should just go see my doctor. But it was getting worse and worse. And I was getting weird sensations in my hands and my legs. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I have to go to the doctor. I have to go to the ER, go to the emerge. And it was there that they told me my brain was bleeding. It was such a surreal moment. I was like, what? I thought that maybe I just pulled something. And anyway, so I ended up spending a month in a hospital learning to walk again. It was quite scary. And after the kind of the physical rehab, like learning to walk again, but I was experiencing such like anxiety and depression from this because I didn't know
Mm,
how my life was going to change. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I worked full time and my life had been flipped upside down. And
yeah.
so I experienced a lot of this kind of anxiety, depression. And about 6 months into it, I was talking to my psychologist who was incredible, but I was like, there's got to be more to this. I can't just keep talking back to my fear. I was so sad. I was anxious. I was frustrated. And there's got to be a root cause to this. So I went on my own journey to figure out how to kind of dig that out. Like, what is the root of that? Why do I feel so scared? Because I was terrified my brain was going to bleed again. I was going to end up in
Right.
hospital again. And so it put me on this journey, and I discovered several different modalities that I've now combined originally to help with anxiety. But what happened was my whole life shifted. My relationships got better with my husband, my kids. And so now I kind of packaged it all up and I share this method with the women I work with, in particular through the Marriage Saver program.
I love that there's this positive outcome out of that horrible story. And I mean, I mean, in the end, it worked out, right? And I think so physically you recovered well, physically you sort of move on from the episode, but then mentally you were still not there yet. You were living in fear, worrying what if one day it happens again to you. And I think, like, on hindsight right now, I think that had to happen, because had you not had you just moved on from there, you would not become who you are today, and has helped so many people since then.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, you couldn't have said that better because I can now look at it like my brain bleed was a gift. I can see it as a
Mm.
gift because it's changed my trajectory in my life. Like it sent me on this
Uh,
beautiful path where I can help women and help them get to such a beautiful place where they're just so much happier. So yes, it's amazing how something can change. One incident can just shift your whole life.
yeah, I know we're only a few minutes into the interview, and you've just like wow us, and it's amazing. I love to hear that. And now that you've discovered this gift of yours, sounds like you can help people in various areas of their life. And who do you specifically work with, and what sort of problem that people come to you with, which are like the most often pressing, and you found the most joy with helping?
Yes, I find working with women, moms, wives, so particularly wives who have children, it's so hard being a mom, right? It's so tough. We get pulled in so many different directions. It's so easy for us to kind of lose who we are, lose our identity because we're constantly catering to those little ones' needs. And
Mm-hmm.
often this can create and magnified so many issues and struggles within our own marriages. So a lot of women, when they're taking care of kids, they find that they get really to a place where they're unappreciated. They feel like their
Mm,
spouse doesn't support them, doesn't kind of give them the validation that they need for all the work that they're doing, and women often feel really frustrated, which becomes very draining in their relationship. They are physically exhausted, right? Because we're going all day, but then the
mm,
emotional exhaustion from not feeling supported by their spouse. So sometimes they get to a place where they actually feel hopeless. So like things are never going to get better. My spouse doesn't support me. I find like we're fighting all the time. And it's just a really horrible place. And they start thinking about divorce. Like, do I even want to be in this
oh,
relationship anymore? And so those are the women I help. I help them get to such a great place where they can navigate those struggles with their husband, and they can get to a place where they can speak up for themselves, but in the kindest way, in a loving way. And it's received by their spouse in such a better way. It ends the conflict, ends the tension.
sounds wonderful. So, Beth, would you mind sharing with us a bit more in depth about how do you help them? Like,
So
how do
the
you talk
first
through it with them? Yeah.
Yeah, the first step, and this is great for all your listeners too. Step number one is awareness. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems so simple, but often we go through the day and we feel these emotions. We feel angry, we feel frustrated. Our spouse is like kind of maybe nagging at this, or we're nagging them. And we go through the day and we just kind of shove these emotions down. We're just like, that's the way it has to be. This is my life. I'm going to feel a little annoyed here or there. But actually, we need to be aware of those. Every time this happens, I encourage the women I work with for maybe 2 hours in a day just to get aware of this. Just get your notes app out and just write down some of the emotions you're feeling. I'm feeling annoyed.
Mm.
I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling shame for being a bad mom. I'm feeling guilt for being a bad mom. Just every emotion that comes up, jot it down. And this is the first key. This is awareness, because these emotions are being triggered. They're being triggered
Mm.
by your spouse's words or actions, their behaviors, or your kids. Like we all know in the morning, getting those kids out the door,
Yes.
don't we all have this like mom rage within us? So
Yep.
documenting this and becoming aware of this is the absolute first sign, because this shows us these triggers, these things that are happening in our life are these massive clues to these roots that we have deep down, these feelings within us that might be like we're not being heard, we're not being seen, we're not accepting aspects of ourselves. So that's the very first step, is the awareness of the emotions that are unwanted.
Right. So just writing it down is really simple. Just have to write it down, because just as you were talk through that right now, I can imagine so many times throughout my day that I can sometimes feel the rage bubbling up. And I mean, I'm aware of that, but I don't note it down, right? For me, it's like, oh my God, I feel ashamed afterwards for having the rage, but it's like, I, it's not like I'm not aware of it, but I think it's the act of writing it down and would you say not judging ourselves as well? There's no bad emotion, very much like how we would teach our kids, but very often we don't apply it on ourselves, right? So, okay,
Absolutely.
so what's the next step after writing it down? I'm loving this already.
So you're going to be aware of the emotions. Now we need to get to the root of it. Like, why is it there? And I'll give you some examples, especially for those moms that are starting their own business. They may feel kind of triggered when their spouse may say things like, how much money have you made? You have another meeting. You have another meeting, and it's like 7 o'clock in the evening, right? When we should be getting the kids to bed. You're on your phone again. You're on your phone that
Mm,
again. How many hours are you on your phone per day? Um, and you have a good job. Why do you want to leave this job? So our
mm,
partner, our spouses may say things like this to us, which cause these triggers, these emotions within us, such as feeling frustrated, feeling guilt too, because we're taking time away from the family. So we got to get to the root of them. So we hear what our spouse says, and now we need to figure out why. So one example might be, we can look at kind of like our inner child. If you were brought up in a way where your parents worked very hard. They worked hard to make money, and that was the philosophy in the family. You put in long hours,
mm,
and that's how you make money. And we all know in today's world of being a mom with your own business, we can automate things. We don't have to work as hard. We might work
mm,
really hard at the front as we get everything set up, but you
mm,
might have this feeling within you like, I need to make more money because I need to work harder. So, and if your spouse is saying to you, how much money have you made? And you haven't made a lot of money up front because you're building that business, you might feel triggered and you're working really hard. And we got to figure out why you feel like you have to work so hard to make that money, that hustle, right? So it's really digging into that inner child. What did you pick up from your childhood that may be influencing your current relationships, creating that conflict in your marriage?
So let's say I have identified the root cause. So what's the next? And also, what if I can't find the root cause? I really tried, but I felt like that's really nothing. It's just an emotion that comes out. I feel offended. I feel accused whenever he's like, what, on your phone again? Or, um, are the kids not good enough? Why are you spending so much time on work? So, okay, talk to us. Take us
Absolutely.
through this.
A lot of times that root cause isn't just like, hey, here you go on a platter. You
Yeah.
don't see it. So this is when it's really important. And as moms, we put ourselves last. We work out last. We kind of eat healthy last. We're like kind of snacking on their food sometimes. Like, oh, I'll eat the rest of what's on your plate. We'll just, because I don't have time to eat. And we also need time to meditate. We need time to get still and to really feel our emotions. So many moms I work with say, I can't meditate. They say,
Mm,
my mind is just too busy. And when your mind's that busy, more than ever, you need stillness. And so when we can get still, and depending on what that looks like, it's different for people. Like they might just want to go for a walk in nature. It might be a bath. You can have a bath, you can journal. For me, I use a method called hypnojourneying. So
mm-hmm.
hypnojourneying is this kind of meditation on steroids. So I have a background in hypnosis. I'm a consulting hypnotist.
Oh,
And so I
wow.
can get women into this incredibly deep state where we can turn off that conscious mind. So we have two minds. We have the conscious mind. So that's our busy mom brain. That's our thinking, our planning, our organizing brain that's going all day. And we need to quiet that. So we need to get it in a peaceful state where it's not going to kind of keep chattering at us. And if we
Mm,
can get into the subconscious, and that's where we store all these memories from childhood, that's where our inner child is. And inner child is those playful aspects that we had as a child, but it's also these areas that were maybe mini traumas, major traumas, areas where maybe we didn't feel loved by our parents the way we needed to. And our parents loved us. They did the best they could, but maybe we needed
mm,
more hugs. Maybe we needed to hear, I love you. You'd say, you're doing
yep,
amazing. And sometimes, depending on our cultures, we grew up and it's just, you're the kid and you need to do this. You need to study. You need to work hard.
yep.
And there's these, or it could even be that inner child could be witnessing a friend get bullied. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get bullied. So I don't want to express my opinion. So then you feel like you're silenced as a child. You're not in a place where you can openly express yourself. So then often in your marriages, you might be in a place where you're like, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, possibly because you felt like that as a child from your parents or maybe adults in your life. So
Mm,
what we do is we need to get really still so that we can figure out what's in our subconscious mind, what memories are there, what habits were formed that we can now kind of release and free ourselves from. So I use
mm,
hypnojourneying with the women I work with, and that's how we kind of get quiet the mind. And that's how we can go into our inner knowing. Our inner knowing, it knows it's there. And it's often when we get quiet, it's like a light bulb goes off. And you're like, this is what's been holding me back. So that's the next step in this process.
Right. And then after that, okay, so let's say the women has worked with you. We have identified what has been our inner child that has been holding us back, what triggers all this emotion. What's next?
So what we need to do is now release this. So we need to almost look at it with empowerment. We're never going to relive our past. Like if we did experience some traumas, maybe there's some like scarring situations that we grew up with, whether it's abuse or bullying, seeing your parents get divorced. Some of those are kind of imprint in our brain, and we form beliefs about that. So what we need to
Mm,
do is kind of almost reparent it. I call it reparenting. So what I suggest is women bring in this like almost like a version of you that could be a parent to that little child. So we get to a place where you're in this deep meditation on visualizing that you from maybe you were 5 years old and your parents were
right.
getting divorced and you just felt so confused. You felt sad. You
Yeah.
felt angry. You're like, my parents are separating. What does that mean to me? Am I still going to get the same amount of love? You can almost go back to that time. So it's amazing how the subconscious holds these memories. And when you get still, it'll take you back to that. We always get like throughout the day, have you ever had kind of like a flashback to your past? Like that's your
Mm,
subconscious just kind of like showing you what's there. And so we get to this beautiful place where we can look at that, but with empowerment. We don't live that pain of our parents' divorce, that we might have like a version of ourselves, this adult version kind of come in and be like, you know what, this is on your parents. They love you, but right now they're going through a difficult time. This is not a reflection of you. They still love you. They're just not loving you the way you need to right now. And often there's certain words, kind of coaching you can give yourself, and I'll prompt women through this
mm.
so that they can kind of release that pain of not being seen, heard, loved from their parents, from their past, or whatever the situation is. And then what happens is all of a sudden it transfers into their current relationships and they realize, you know what, I love myself. I don't necessarily
Mm.
need that constant validation from my partner because I know I'm doing well. I know I'm a good mom. I know I'm going to be successful at this business. Maybe I'm not there yet, but I know it's going to happen. I have that belief so deeply that this is the path I want. I want to be a mom that has more time for my kids, but also run a business and be like super powerful mompreneur.
Wow. Okay. All right. So this is if like step three and step four, you help women through these steps. But what if women who can't get to you? So is this something that they can actually work through it themselves?
Yeah, you know what? I do have a free gift on my website. So if you go to
Ah,
Soulify Wellness, that you can download my first, like one of the first hypno journeys. It's incredible. It's called True You, and you really
mm-hmm.
get to connect with that authentic you. So your authentic you is this incredible peaceful you. So we think about going through our day. When anytime we have these unwanted emotions come up, like we kind of yell at our kids or we're feeling
Yeah.
frustrated that things aren't going well with our business or there's a little like bump in the road, that's not our authentic us. Our authentic us is just this like powerful, peaceful, like confident, worthy, deserving. Like have you ever been in a place where you're like, I own this, I got this, like nothing can knock me down. I could be in a hurricane, but I feel so good about myself. No one's going to take that vibe away from me. So it's like your high
Mm,
vibe self, this like happy person. And it doesn't mean you can't feel sadness. Of course, things happen in your life, but you feel more in control. You don't feel like you're giving your power. You're no longer a victim. You're just so strong in who you are and you can navigate situations. You'll figure out the solution. So we need to tap into this authentic you. And that's the version of you that we need to take through life, take through our interactions with our kids, our partner. And that's the authentic you. You'll tap into that through this hypno journey, this true you hypno journey. You'll meet her. And sometimes it's the first time you meet her. You're like, this is incredible. I love this person. And you learn how to kind of tap
ah,
into that, channel that version of you. And then you can bring that into your relationships and into your business.
oh, that sounds wonderful. So, okay, so I'll definitely leave the link in the show notes. And for those of you who's listening, do go over there. I'm actually heading right over there right after this interview to discover the true me because it sounds like it's amazing. I get you. I get that, it's amazing to be that true self, that higher self all the time. But is it possible to be our most higher self all the time, you think?
It would be amazing if we could. Really, ultimately, we should. That's
Yeah.
where we are striving to go.
Right.
Depending on the path you're on and where you are with your own awareness, you
Mm-hmm.
can get there. I'm not there yet. I'm on
Right.
my path to get there, but you can be at a place where you see life, you're so present in the
Mm-hmm.
moment that and of course, there's places where you're present and there's times where we have to plan ahead. Like we can't always be just
Mm,
now. Like as moms, business owners, we need to look ahead, but you're just present in it. Like everything that's happening, you
You
see it
got
for what it
this.
is. You got this. And the emotions that come
Yeah.
in, and because you can control your reactions when you're in your moment, like when you're authentically you, someone will say something, you'll pause, you'll think, and then you'll give a response that's authentically you, instead of all of a
Mm,
sudden this reactive being like, we need to do this, or get your shoes on, let's get out the door. What do you mean we're not making enough money? I need to be on the phone. That's how I run a
mm,
business. So depending on your reaction, it if you react from such a kind place and be like, you know what, you're right, I am on the phone a lot. I wish I wasn't on the phone this much. I don't like how it's taking away from the kids, but I know this is just a
mm,
busy season of my business right now. Give me a couple weeks and I know I'll be back to being able to put the kids to bed and being able to cook these healthier meals. Or instead of being this like barky, like I have to do this if I'm going to make any money, if I'm going to like
mm.
scale my business, I need to be on my phone all the time. So it's, instead of being like
Uh,
reactive or
yeah.
defensive,
Yeah.
that's not authentic you. So if you can just really breathe and just stay in the moment. And the one key for moms, this is a good one. When we're exhausted, it's so hard to be authentic because we're just tired
Mm.
and we get on edge easier. So it's very important to get sleep.
Yeah. So from what you say, is really taking ownership of what we are doing, or be aware, right? Like you mentioned, the number one thing is to be aware and not being a victim of I have to, and not saying like, oh, as if you're victim and that you have no choice. You do have a choice. So yeah, this is amazing. So I know. So what we're saying here in wrapping up is that if our partner is not supportive in our entrepreneurship journey, so it takes a little bit of self-reflection, like self-coaching us through this to be able to handle it better. Because first of all, we can't change another person. But what if our husband is really being a dick? Then how do we handle it?
Yeah, well, there's multiple situations here. So number one, we need to connect with those feelings that are happening. So awareness, feel the feelings, kind
Yeah.
of go inward, being like, is he actually being a dick? Or is this just
Yeah.
me seeing his words as being really offensive? So we just kind of have to
Okay.
like kind
Again.
of put it into perspective. So yes, if he's completely being
Yeah,
unfair, being
sometimes they
mean,
do. Yeah. They need
so then
to
we
self-reflect too, right?
absolutely. So two things happen. Well, you need to decide, is this actually a relationship I want to stay in? Is this just a
Mm,
one-off, or is this a kind of a pattern that's happening within a relationship? So some self-reflection can be there. Is this a boundary that's constantly being crossed that I is a deal breaker? Most of the time,
again.
that's
Yeah.
not it. What happens is they recognize the inner child within them. What kind of
Mm,
pain are they bringing to this situation? Are they scared? Are they scared because maybe you're not going to be able to spend as much time with them because you're starting this entrepreneur journey? Are they scared that money might be a bit tight for a little bit longer? Do they have their own doubt? Maybe from their childhood, they saw their parents have their own business that failed. So we just also need to
mm,
honor and respect where they're coming from and kind of start that conversation at a time that works for them. And one thing I find that happens is when you start this journey of really channeling that authentic you and responding in this beautiful, peaceful way, and being so aware of what's going on, that they actually start to up level too. And it's not because
mm,
they're doing the course, they're not doing the program or the work or the hypno journeys, but they're around this higher vibe. All of a sudden, the
mm,
interactions that your spouse is having with you are you're not fighting the same way. You're not bickering, you're not feeling as unappreciated, and you're starting to have fun, laugh again with each other, enjoying each other's company, feeling supported, feeling loved, feeling connected. And what happens is those kind of same old patterns start to break because you're half of the problem, right? You're half of
yes.
this relationship.
Yeah,
So
true.
when we can act authentically, they also start to too. They feel more comfortable around you. They don't feel like, oh, she's going to complain or she's going to be mad about this. So yeah, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. So it takes two hands to clap. So if we clap higher, they have to come higher with us. So I love that. There's so many good takeaways through this. And if our audience would like to find out more about what you do and where they can find you.
Well, I have a great little guide that your audience can download. It's called Save 3 Ways to Save Your Marriage. So they can get that at www.freemarriageguide.com, and it has some
Mhm.
great little tips in it. You can also find me on Instagram, so at Soulify Wellness, and on Facebook. So yeah, check those out. I have lots of free goodies there, little tips and strategies.
Yes, awesome. So we have the free guide, we have the True You meditation guide that we could listen to right away. And what's the last word that you like to leave our audience with? So usually before we wrap up, I ask all my guests if there's only one advice that you could give women entrepreneurs who are just starting out in their journey, what would you say?
Oh, that journey can be so scary and so confusing. So my biggest tip is get still, get somewhere that you feel really comfortable in nature, sitting in a chair, lying in bed, and just really listen to your intuition. Listen to that inner knowing. When we have that self doubt that creeps in, thinking, I'm not going to be a success, I might fail, really going inward and check in with your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? And often it's not just I want security for, or I want to make more money, but often it comes down to like, I want time for my family. I want to be with my family. That's my why. And when you can take that why, that love for your family, and that's why you're doing this, and just really put it in your heart, visualize it in your heart, like, I'm doing this from a place of love, starting up this business. So really get into a relaxed state, breathe, and listen to that inner knowing, that intuition, because that'll clear all those fears away, and you'll really be able to connect with why you're on this journey to become an entrepreneur.
I love that. And oftentimes we are so busy with everything that's going around us, we never really take the time to pause and just really visualize, take the time for ourselves. So, one last question. So, in that taking time for ourselves, is there like a minimum amount of time that we should be taking?
Oh, you know what? It'd be great if you could take half an hour every day, but you
Oh,
know what? If you
no.
could take five, I know that's not realistic. If
Yeah,
you
I
could
mean,
take,
yeah, a lot of women was telling me, no, no way. You're like, okay, take time out for yourself. It's me time is all the rage. But then we're like, what me time, right? Toilet. If you get to have a proper shower, that's me time.
if you
So,
could take 2 minutes, honestly, two
2 minutes.
minutes in a day and just breathe, it's amazing. Your vagus nerve, if that's the nerve that really will help calm you down, if you can just breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4, and just go inward and breathe and just connect with how you're feeling in that moment. Feeling, is there any tension right now? Do I feel tension in my heart? Is there a heaviness there? Do I feel anything in my gut? Because a lot of times, sometimes we feel sick and there's little, like, not sick, like physically sick, but you might feel nervous. So you have
Yeah,
those feelings in your gut, or you might feel like you have a heavy heart. So it's really important to just 2 minutes, just breathe, feel where there's might be some tension in your body. And that breathing for 2 minutes will really calm you down and help you kind of connect with yourself so that you can show up as a better mom and a better business owner.
that's it. 2 minutes, guys. We can do it. 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you for coming on to our show. And if you have loved this episode, please share it with your friends. Bye, Beth.
Thank you for having me.